You know that feeling, right? It's 2 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, completely wide awake because your brain just decided to replay some incredibly embarrassing thing you did 5 years ago. It's like your head is full of spinning gears and chaotic question marks over one tiny mistake. We have literally all been there. But then you glance over at your dog or cat, just snoozing peacefully on the floor, probably dreaming about chasing tennis balls, and you really start to wonder about the fundamental difference between your two brains.
Which brings us to the core question of our scientific investigation today. Do animals actually feel regret? Like, do they ever lay awake agonizing over past errors? Or is all that heavy emotional baggage uniquely human? It's a seriously fascinating question about how different minds operate, and to figure it out, we've got to look closely at how animals actually process their own histories.
Section 1. Varying Animal Intelligence. Okay, so before we dive into the deep psychology of regret, we've got to establish a pretty big caveat. An ant, a fish, a crow, and an octopus are all experiencing the world in vastly different ways. Animal intelligence just varies so much depending on the species. Because of that massive variance in brain power, we're going to focus this explainer specifically on highly intelligent creatures. Dogs, birds, cephalopods. We focus on them because that's where we see the absolute most complex behaviors, making them the perfect test cases for complex emotions.
Section 2. Memory and emotion and processing the past. To really wrap our heads around regret, we have to look at how these intelligent animals process the past. Now, you might assume animals just live in a constant now and forget everything 5 seconds later. But we have rock-solid proof of complex cognition, showing they aren't just biological robots. Take crows, for example. They can remember human faces for years. They will literally hold a grudge against people who treated them badly. Think about that. Dogs remember their owners for years after being apart. Squirrels remember the exact locations of their hidden food across huge areas. And it's not just memory, it's emotion. Researchers have seen clear signs of emotional processing, like rats actively choosing to help out other rats in experiments. They absolutely feel fear, happiness, and detachment.
So here is the million-dollar question. If they have memories, and they clearly have emotions, why wouldn't they feel regret? It's a real logical mystery. If they possess both deep memory and complex emotions, what is fundamentally stopping them from regretting their past actions? Why don't they drop a glass and spend 10 minutes beating themselves up over it like we do?
Section 3. The missing inner monologue. Well, the missing puzzle piece in the animal mind is actually the total absence of an overanalyzing inner voice. The divide in our experiences is night and day. For a human, knocking over a glass leads to instant overthinking. We look back, we internalize it, we stare at the ceiling thinking, oh man, what if I just moved it back a few inches? We create these huge mental flowcharts of our failures. But when a dog knocks over a toy, it just stares at it blankly. Animals don't look back and get embarrassed, they don't regret. Instead, they just react to the future based entirely on the outcomes of their past experiences.
Let's break this down with a practical example. Step 1. An animal attempts a task, like a crow holding a tiny tool in its beak to solve a puzzle for food. Step 2. They observe the outcome. Did it work? Did it fail? Step 3. They remember and adjust for the future. If the tool works, the crow remembers that and uses the exact same method next time. But catch what's missing here. There is absolutely no inner monologue planning out the steps, and it definitely isn't sitting there reflecting, wow, thank goodness I finally learned how to use this thing. It is pure, efficient learning, totally free of the emotional baggage of self-judgment. This purely outcome-based reaction means animals process the timeline of their own lives very, very differently than we humans do.
Section 4. Living in the present.
Unlike us, animals don't live in the past or the future. Think about yourself walking outside, probably staring right down at your phone screen. You might be eating your breakfast while already stressing about your workday, or maybe endlessly scrolling TikTok just to drown out some lingering thoughts. Meanwhile, a dog or a deer standing right near you is just calm, simply observing their surroundings. They remain entirely anchored in the present moment.
Their logic is just beautifully straightforward. If they're safe, they're calm. If they're hungry, they eat. Because they aren't reliving past mistakes and wondering what they could have done differently, their existence is perfectly tied to their immediate environment. They take the lessons of the past to stay safe and fed, sure, but they leave the shame of the past exactly where it belongs, in the past.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider this thought. They don't carry the weight of being overly aware. In many ways, that is what makes us envy their lifestyle. That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it?
The unburdened instinct of an animal, completely free from our exhausting human habit of regret, is something we deeply admire. They are just living in the moment. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're lying awake at night, overanalyzing a past choice, what would happen if you just silenced that inner monologue, learned the lesson, and went right back to sleep, just like your dog?